Hey guys, my name is JAde and welcome to Dallas Jamming, the channel where we look at all the possible ways of making music using hardware. In this video, I wanted to talk about why I think cheap Casios are a great first synthesizer choice for anyone looking into getting into the music making hobby. So when you first start off on your synthesizer journey and you start looking up the prices of synthesizers, it hurts. Seeing that a monophonic synthesizer, meaning that it only plays one note at a time, can cost $200 to $300 can definitely make your wallet cringe. And if this is a hobby that you're not 100% sure about, meaning that you just want to get your toes wet to see if playing keyboard is something that you might like to do, I think old cheap Casios and Yamaha keyboards are a great place to start. So here's a few reasons why cheap Casios make great first synths. So the main thing that I tell anyone that's trying to get into music making is the importance of playing keyboard and really getting good at keyboard skills. And cheap Casios make this very possible because lately synthesizer companies have been making their keyboards smaller and smaller. Less and less octaves, like 2 octaves, like what is that? What are you supposed to do with this except tweak your knobs, right? On most old Casios, you will find at least 4 octaves, which is much more than enough to play left and right hand melodies. You can find them with mini keys or full-size keys depending on your preference. Obviously, the ones with mini keys are going to be more compact and more portable, but most of these synthesizers are battery powered. Unfortunately, they're the really big D batteries that don't last very long, but you can also use them with portable 9-volt battery packs. I've done some research on the subject because most of my old Casios are 7.5 and not 9 volt, but a lot of the forums that I've read said that it's okay to use 9 volt on 7.5. Take that how you want to. I've been doing it for a while and haven't had any problems. They also sell D-size rechargeable batteries if that's something that you might want to look into. They are a little on the pricey side, but you could always just use it plugged into the wall like a regular synthesizer. And you can normally find a 9 volt power supply anywhere. So let's talk about the price because this is definitely a touchy subject. I feel like it's no longer a secret that Casios are a great deal, and a lot of people are starting to realize this, especially people like in the lo-fi community trying to find those gritty sounds that you get from nice old Casios. And with a lot of people wanting the same thing comes the oh great supply and demand. So maybe even less than a year ago, you could get your hands on some very rare Casios for a cheap price, especially because people weren't really looking for them. I feel like now they're becoming more and more popular, especially things like the CZ101 or the SK1. And the price is definitely going up on those. This doesn't mean that you can't take advantage of that make offer function. Definitely haggle, try to get the best deal when you can, especially with this hobby. Negotiating is definitely a skill that comes with time, but definitely try to see where the seller is at. Pawn shops and thrift stores are also a great place to find gems. You can sometimes find very rare synths for very cheap prices. Sometimes people even giving them away $10. It's crazy the stories that you hear of people finding treasures in thrift shops. So let's talk about the sound and the difference between a synthesizer that you get nowadays and a cheap Casio. Is that my fridge? God, my fridge is so loud. Just so you guys know the struggle, every time I make these videos, I gotta turn off my fridge. So the main difference with the sound of a synthesizer and the sound of a cheap Casio is that with a synthesizer, you're actually able to tweak the sounds. On a lot of these old Casios, you get what you get. You get a number of presets that you can switch between, but you can't really save sounds or do anything to them. That being said, the sounds on these synths are really great. Like, they're very classic sounds. You get very nice recreations of pianos and classical instruments. Of course, they're not going to be as amazing as on something like a Montage, which is $3,000, but for $100 you can't go wrong. And to be honest, these sounds are really sought after nowadays. You get that classical sound without the need for 100 plugins and tweaking and all this extra stuff that you have to do when using software. You just get the sounding nasty, but in a good way. And with a lot of these keyboards, it's those imperfections in the sound that give it its quality. So there are a few old keyboards that you can tweak the sounds on, for example on the CZ101, but the CZ230S, the one that I have right over there, is pretty much a CZ101 that is pre-programmed, meaning that in that one, you can't edit the sounds. Yeah, it is a drawback on that one, but that one's kind of a little more rare because you get the drum machine and the speaker, so that's my baby right there. If you're really looking to tweak sounds and get into sound design, then you might want to spend that extra $300 to get a synthesizer that you can actually move knobs and sliders on and affect the sound and save presets. But if you're trying to learn keys or you just want something that you can sit on the couch with, plug some headphones in, just kick back and play some melodies, cheap Casios are definitely the way to go. So like I said in the beginning of the video, a monophonic monophonic synthesizer, an analog synthesizer, can run you $200 to $300, sometimes even more depending on the brand of said synthesizer. With old Casio, you're looking at about 6 to 8 note polyphony, which is far more than enough to do chords and melodies with the other hand, and having 3 to 4 octaves, especially the 4 octave ones, which are my favorite, definitely make these keyboards a lot more playable than some of the smaller, newer keyboards that you can get. I feel that we gearheads should go on strike and demand that companies start making 4 octave keyboards, because 3 octaves is not enough and 2 octaves is unacceptable. Another great feature that these synthesizers have that companies have slowly started removing from new synths is the speaker. So it's a little cheesy, of course, because you're not gonna bring down the house with this tiny speaker, but it can actually get pretty loud, especially in comparison to something like the OP1 speaker, which is, pretty much useless. But the speakers on these old Casios are actually pretty usable and definitely couch jamming material, even outside jamming material if you ask me. No need for headphones, just turn on your Casio and get to jamming. Some of these keyboards have a sustain input as well as a headphone output. And the funny thing about these old keyboards is that the older they are, the more outputs they have. So for example, on the Casio PT82, you still have the audio output, but the one that came after that, they removed the audio output because they realized people aren't really using that feature. Kids aren't really plugging their keyboard onto a speaker or into a recording system to record this little keyboard, right? So companies started receiving more feedback and realizing where can they save money, and they just started removing features. So let's talk about mini keys, because they're definitely not going anywhere. And I think it's funny when people complain about mini keys, especially the ones on mini keyboards now, because they're so much bigger than the ones that you get on these old Casios, especially the smaller toy Casios that actually sound really good and also are becoming very rare as well. I used to complain about them and hate on them, but after watching some people shred on mini keys, it really makes you question yourself and your skills. If you can't shred on mini keys, you probably can't shred on big keys. Like with anything, they take a little bit to get used to. Of course, it's not the same as playing a full-size keyboard or a piano, but they definitely do their job. They do what they need to do. That being said, if you're trying to release your inner Mozart, mini keys are probably not the way to go. But worry not, there's a lot of old Casios with full-size keys, and even the CZ101 has a bigger brother. So you might have noticed that my collection of Casios comes in beautiful rainbow colors. That is because I am super obsessed with rare Casios, especially my unicorn SK1 pink Casio. These definitely go for a hefty price, and you will find this to be true with any keyboard that's limited edition or a rare color or something that they didn't make a lot of, Supply and demand. Did you take economics in high school? So yes, cheap Casios are very likely to hold their value, and that's another great reason to invest in them now, because the older they get, the more rare that they're gonna get, the less that they're gonna be available because they are no longer in production, and more people are starting to realize what a great deal Casios are and how good they actually sound. Collecting old Casios can definitely be addicting, especially because of the hunt. It's fun trying to find the best deal, trying to haggle, getting your hands on an old keyboard that's been in somebody's closet for 20 years in its case in immaculate condition is a great feeling. So if you're thinking about buying an old Casio, definitely don't sleep on it. I feel like they're great starter synths. And if you're a little too late to the game to get those Casios that you really wanted, but you still want to learn to play keys and don't want to go crazy in spending $200 to $300 on a synthesizer, the new Casio SAs look decent enough. And I believe Yamaha is also doing something new like this, smaller keyboard types for beginners. A lot of people always ask me why don't I have any of the old Yamahas, and that's because I already have so many Casios and I probably shouldn't. That being said, if I were to walk into a thrift store and find something for a good deal, it's kinda hard to not jump on a good deal. That's it guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, subscribe. If you like what I do, consider becoming a patron. You get all of my music, sample packs, you name it. Love you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.